Hello, Year 6. This is lesson 8 on Wednesday, the 10th of February. And remember, you are writing a letter in role. You're writing as the man to your wife back home as you sit in the trenches after your comrade has just died in your arms. So let's just remind ourselves the purpose, audience, form of this writing. The purpose is to explain. You're writing home, explaining, firstly, how much you care for the person back at home, and secondly, how much you are suffering in the trenches in World War I. Now, your audience is your loved one back at home. Now, through the modelling that I've done, I've decided that I'm writing home to my wife. And reading your first paragraph, most of you have decided to do that as well, but some of you have decided to write back to another family member. It could be a brother or a sister or a mother or a father. But whatever you're doing, you're writing as the man to your family member at home as you sit in the trenches just after your comrade has died in your arms. And you're doing, the form is a letter. Now, today, you're going to be writing your second paragraph where you elaborate about life in the trenches using flashback techniques to talk about what has recently just happened to you. Now, don't worry about thinking, I can see you're all thinking now, what are flashback techniques? I'm going to take you through those very shortly. But before I do that, what I want to do is to talk to you about the writing that you've just done in the first paragraph. And I have some feedback from your class teachers. First of all, you're doing a great job. You have, most of you, done what we asked you to do. You have shown that you care about the person that you're writing to at home. And you also have started to touch on the suffering that you are experiencing in the trenches in World War I. You haven't elaborated on them, you just touched on them in a general manner, as the Waggle did yesterday. So the rest of the advice I want to give you, or we want to give you, is that can you just continue to read back your work? Does it make sense? Some of you, obviously, your mind is working quicker than your hand is writing, and you're missing out key words. And that's fine, as long as you go back and check it and put them in. But some of you aren't going back to check. So as readers, we're looking at them thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure that makes sense. So can you just check on that? Also, please be careful with your tenses. Remember, use the structure strip at the side, and that will give you, excuse me, an indication as to what tense you should be writing in. Are you doing precise word choice? Have you shown your suffering and how much you care for your wife? There's some very good examples in the Waggle. You could magpie those. You could use a thesaurus, either a hard copy of a thesaurus or an online thesaurus to find a similar word that you could substitute it with. And please vary your sentence starters. We've done an awful lot of work on sentence starter variation. And that, again, if you do change your sentence starters and vary them, that will help you with your cohesion in your writing. So that's just a little bit of feedback that we wanted to give you so that you could improve your writing. If you feel you can improve your writing, please stop the video now, go back, look at that first paragraph. It's also an opportunity to respond to any feedback that your teacher has given you already. And then when you're ready, please restart this lesson. So moving on. I want you to just get yourself back in the zone and think about what life was like. So I want you to use this clip that I would have sent home, the link to you yesterday. And I only want you to watch the section relating to the war. So that starts at 48 seconds in and finishes 1 minute, 8 seconds. Not a long clip, but it will give you an opportunity to get back into role, thinking about yourself as the man. Now here, this is you as the man. When you're watching it, I want you to record using this sheet what you would be thinking at this point. So, for example, I'm just going straight to the piece where I'm just going to reduce the type size so I can fit in this work into the thought bubble, where he'd just seen his comrade in arms die on his signal. And so I'm going to say that he's feeling guilty because he gave signal. Can't spell. There we are. He feels guilty because he's innocent. How else would you feel? Well, you're in the middle of a war field, so I would feel frightened. Year 6, I cannot spell today. What other things were you experiencing? Now I know how good you are at doing this, Year 6, so I'm sure you'll be able to fill these thought bubbles and a few more when you're watching the sheet. Okay, so stop this lesson now, go and watch just those few seconds of the section of the film relating to the war, fill in your prompt sheet, and this will help you moving forward. When you're ready, restart the lesson. So year 6, I want to talk to you now about a flashback. Now, this is your second paragraph that you're going to be writing using flashback techniques. So this is where you tell the story of the war section of the film. So what is a flashback? Well, let's see. It's a technique or a skill in writing that interrupts the normal chronological order of the main narrative to take the reader back in time to past events in a character's life, just like it did in the video when the man was playing the piano. So he's in present time there and his mind is going back into a character's life. So this is done by using trigger words and phrases that transition or let the reader know that the event happened in the past. Can you think of any phrases that would do this? Think about things that happened in the past. Okay, let's have a look and see what I came up with. I remember when, just the other day, yesterday, earlier today, a week ago, I recall. Okay, so these are the trigger words and phrases and many more that you can use to let the reader know that you've gone from the present tense into the past tense. So you need to be using some phrases like this. Now, let's move on. Just put me out the way so I can get to here. There we go. Okay, so we are moving on to the second paragraph. Remember, this is where you tell the story of the war section of the film. Now, this is a flashback paragraph. As you are talking about something that has recently happened, you're reflecting back, you're sat in the trenches, reflecting back on what has happened and talking to your wife about it. So you're going to use past tense. I want you to start with an adverbial of time, and I've given you some here, yesterday, earlier today. I'm sure you can come up with some more than that. Then I want you to describe what happened fully. And then when you described what happened, how your friend got murdered, shot, then I want you to show how you feel about his death and how thinking of them at home helps you cope with all the death and destruction that is around you. So there's 3 distinct phrases there. So you've got the flashback, where you're describing what happened, then you're showing how you felt, then you're showing how thinking about your life at home helps you cope with not just your friend's death, but all the other deaths that you've seen. So I'm going to read you now my waggle for the second paragraph. Yesterday, we lost a few men in an unexpected shower of gunfire. A friend lost his battle in my arms, hit by a round of bullets when he rounded a wall after following my signal. As he turned to fight, he collapsed onto me, screaming in agony, like an injured animal with his eyes wide and terrified. I watched as the light in his eyes went out. God bless his soul. Watching someone die is a terrible thing, Mary, like watching a doomed ship leave the harbour for the last time, knowing that it will never return. Each day is so dark, yet when I think of you and your brightness, I feel calmer. Recently, I've been thinking about how we first met. Do you recall that wonderful day all those years ago? So, let me see, what have I done here? So, start with an adverbial of time. Yep, I've done that. So I'm just going to highlight that. Yes, I've done that. I know I've done that. That's great. So then I'm describing what happened. So this whole section here, this one here is all about describing what happened fully. So that whole section there fits that bill. So now I'm going to have to show how I felt about his death. So this bit here, watching someone die is a terrible thing, Mary. And this section here. And then, so I've done that section. Oh, let me just highlight that in pink so you know which bit is that. And then how coping or thinking about them at home helps you cope. So here I'm saying every day is so dark, yet when I think of you and your brightness, I feel calmer. Recently, I've been thinking about how we first met. There we go. So that section there fits this section here. Now, so I know that I have filled everything on that structure strip. Use this structure strip to help you when you are writing. Now, to help you also, I've done a flashback support sheet with some words here that might help you talk about this particular flashback here in terms of how you're feeling and thinking and describing what happened. And don't forget, you've got your thoughts and feelings here that you have just filled out from the previous activity. So you have your structure strip, you have this, and you have this to help you. In addition, you can use the strategy that you did for your first paragraph, where you either mimic, you change and mimic, or you create. Up to you which one of those you use. So year 6, what I'd like you to do now is to write your first, or the second paragraph. So you might want to stop the video now with this screen on show so that you can actually see all the things that I have done and used to help me write this. When you've finished your writing of your second paragraph, I'd like you to move on to the next part of the lesson. Okay, so year 6, you have done your second paragraph and you have done your editing for, just move my head down here a bit, you have done your editing for non-negotiables. You've gone back, checked your spelling, does it make sense in your punctuation? And you're now going to move on to add, take away, replace, or read aloud. Now, I noticed straight away, and I'm sure you've noticed here, that I have said here that I have got a round of bullets. I just want to highlight this. I've got a round of bullets when he rounded the wall. And when I was reading the Waggle out to you, I thought, that doesn't sound right. A friend lost his battle in my arms, hit by a round of bullets when he rounded a wall. So while I like the when he rounded a wall, because that means he came round the wall, but a round of bullets doesn't work. So I think I'll just cross that out and add purple pen over it with a flurry of bullets, with a hail of bullets. I'm going to go with hail. I'm going to write here, create a new one. Hail of bullets. Rather like a hailstorm. So I'm going to replace that. So that sounds okay. Now, I noticed something else as well when I was reading it. And it was on this sentence here. Each day is so dark, yet when I think of you and your brightness, I feel calmer. I don't want the reader to read it, yet when I think of you and your brightness, I feel calmer. I want them to stop after brightness. So each day is so dark, yet when I think of you and your brightness, pause, I feel calmer. So I'm going to put a comma after there. Then I'm going to read it back through again and check that there isn't anything else that I want to edit. And that's what I would expect you to do now. Year 6, I would like you to, you should have already done your edit 1. I'd like you now to do edit 2 and do what I have done. So, when you have finished your editing year 6 and you're happy with this, you need to submit your writing of your paragraph 2 to your class teacher by the end of today. So that brings us now to the end of our lesson. Thank you, year 6.